Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to address the question, what is modernity? Modernity comes from the word modern, and modern originates in the Latin word modo, which means recently. Modern is a relative term, and if we say that something is modern, what we mean is that there is another thing which is not modern, that is to say, that is traditional. So in this way we compare between two things. So in this way it becomes a relative term, and it is quite vague in nature. So how does modern get defined in the context of literary studies in English? It is often defined as a tendency towards experimentation, innovation, and challenging the older conventions. So in this sense, Chaucer, who was a well-known poet of the Middle English period, was more modern than his contemporaries. William Shakespeare or John Donne were more modern than their contemporaries, and so on. So in the first sense of the modern, we can get a tendency among the writers to be different from their contemporaries, to be ahead of their times. Now, in the second sense, modern applies to a development in art which emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, which is known as modernist movement. And with this, we associate writers like T.S. Eliot, Ezra Pound, James Joyce, Virginia Woolf, and several others. Modernism refers to a movement in painting, literature, and other arts. It is associated with movements like Imagism, Expressionism, Surrealism, and many more. It was an early 20th century pan-European phenomenon which emerged in several metropolises of Europe like London, Vienna, Paris, and many more. It was marked by a plethora of thematic and formal experimentations. And in this way, through these experimentations, through these new ways of representation, modernism challenged realism, which was a development in the field of art in the 18th and 19th centuries. So we will have more discussions on modernism in the subsequent videos. Now, for the time being, let us consider that modernism was an aesthetic response to modernity. So what do we mean by modernity? Now, it's a highly contested term, and by common parlance, we can say that it obviously refers to the quality of being modern. Now, to be more specific about the term modernity, we need to consider that sometimes it refers to a historical epoch, and sometimes it also refers to an attitude or a consciousness or a condition of living that developed with the rise of capitalism, industrialization, urbanization, and secularization. So it is like another term, the Renaissance, which is both an epoch and an attitude. So Edmund Husserl, a famous 20th century German philosopher, defines modernity as a pursuit that is akin to the Cartesian philosophy and science that promise to enable human beings to master nature. In this way, Husserl links modernity with the Enlightenment, the pan-European philosophical movement of the 17th century, which was predicated upon the belief that reason and scientific pursuits can free humans from political tyranny and religious dogma. Now, modernity, when it is an historical epoch, it also gets related to consciousness which started to emerge from the 1500s, and then we have three phases of modernity according to Marshall Berman. And as we see that Berman refers to modernity as something which initiated a maelstrom of perpetual disintegration and renewal. So in these three phases, Europe experienced disintegration as well as renewal. So older forms disintegrated and newer forms came, and then the newer forms had traces of the older forms. So society evolved through modernity. Now, if you consider the origin or the first phase of modernity, you will find that modernity is related to the Renaissance, because Renaissance also happened in Europe in the 14th and 15th centuries. Now, this reminds us of the fact that the other name for the Renaissance is, if you consider Renaissance as a historical epoch, it is also known as the early modern period. So in this way, modernism becomes both an attitude and a history. And if we consider it as an attitude or a consciousness, we have to say that it places humanity and human reason at the center of everything, which is the crux of humanism. And it promotes what is known as progressivism. That is the belief that advancements in science and technology would improve the conditions of all human beings. Now, there were critiques of modernity as well. We are going to talk about them later in the subsequent videos. But for the time being, let us assume that modernity is something which came up with hope for a better tomorrow. So, modernity as a historical condition or a consciousness or attitude is marked by fragmentation, speed, reformation of the traditional, and this very idea of the modern first came in the essay called The Painter of Modern Life, which was written by the famous French poet Charles Baudelaire. So, overall, we can say that modernity is connected with monumental changes in perception of reality and expression of artistic sensibilities, which were brought forth by industrialization, capitalism, secularization. And it is both an attitude and an epoch. Hence, it is essential to our understanding of modernism. These are my references which I have used to make this content. Thank you for watching.